Hello, human. Reflective Self here with a new episode of Living Lessons, where I get to share honest insights from lived experience. Lessons that capture moments of clarity, vulnerability, and human understanding. Today's episode is all about consistency, self-trust, and why yesterday's efforts cannot become a substitute for today's practice. And so here's the lesson that I've learned. Our ability to show up cannot be claimed. It is a practice proven time and time again. Lately, I've been thinking about a phrase that has become somewhat of a national anthem in personal growth spaces. Showing up. On the surface, it's a phrase that can feel incredibly simple, a phrase we hear quite often. We are grateful for the people in our lives who show up. We encourage ourselves to show up. We recognize when we've been consistent. Having just stepped into a new chapter of my life, showing up has begun to carry a very different meaning. It is a chapter of chosen solitude where both the freedom and the responsibility of that freedom are solely mine. One of the places life has been teaching me this is through one of the simplest parts of my life: walking. I can remember waking up to the sun as its warmth greeted me through my bedroom windows. My smile widened as I stretched my body from my neck and arms to the tips of my toes. The morning proceeded like all other mornings before it. I would pack my backpack and stock it with every essential item that a good walk would need. Earbuds for moments when I needed music to get me into a dancing rhythm. A face towel for the moments when the heat would have me dripping with sweat. A bottle filled to the very brim with the best water a faucet could offer. I would tie up my shoes that had already seen hundreds of kilometers and couldn't wait to see 100 more. I would slather sunscreen with the highest SPF imaginable onto every surface of my skin. I would grab my hat and head out the door. Off to Mordor, I would say. Some days the route changed. Other days I took the long way home. I sometimes took detours only to discover a new favorite place. Sometimes I wandered with no destination at all. Even so, the walk still stood. When it rained heavily, I matched it with my golf-sized umbrella. When temperatures dropped to -20, I would get the heat packs ready and start shaking them like maracas. When the floor turned to sheets of ice, I would eagerly pull out my metal clawed cleats and firmly strap them to my feet. With practice and a mindset shift, I was determined to always make inconvenience a solvable challenge rather than an excuse. Because somewhere along the way, I couldn't imagine a life without motion. If you followed my writing for a while, you'd probably notice that walking makes quite a few guest appearances in my reflections. That wasn't always the case. For those who've been curious enough to ask, my answer still remains the same. Walking saved my life. When I faced loss and battled bouts of rumination, walking was there. It helped me out of my darkest hours when sitting still all but left me suffocated in grief. In nature, it gave me permission to feel and release every pent-up emotion I had been carrying. Something I could never achieve from inside the confines of any four walls. With every step I take, I can feel the earth. I can feel my ancestors taking that step with me. I can feel the weight of my father's hand steady on my shoulder. Even though this practice has now grown into a daily ritual, I'm not dismissive of reality. There are days when I found myself bound to the couch or an office chair, or when my priorities have had to shift. Sometimes because of responsibilities, sometimes because of recovery, sometimes because of life. In those times when walking had to take a back seat, I could somehow feel the fog and rumination return. Even with all the steps I had banked, all the benefits from my past walks couldn't simply roll over into the present. I felt like I was back at the beginning, which became its own humbling realization. And strangely enough, I found that comforting, because it reminded me that every day starts anew with a clean slate to show up for the motion once more. Whether it arrives as 10,000 steps or a 5-minute walk around the block. That memory stays with me as a constant reminder that walking isn't the only place where it happens. Life is full of resumes. They are filled with the skills and knowledge we've accumulated over time. The experiences through which we've achieved and endured. They are not just the ones we send to prospective employers. They are the invisible ones we build each and every day. The resume of our kindness, our discipline, our patience, our creativity, our relationships, our health. We spend years collecting experiences. We learn. We fail. We grow. And rightly so. Those experiences matter. But what happens if those very skills, knowledge, and experiences don't continue to be practiced? Do we still deserve the right to claim them? Can we stop practicing a skill for years and expect to step back in exactly where we left off? Can we still call ourselves experts on a tool if we repeatedly return to the how-to guide? Can we stop caring for our health and assume past efforts will somehow carry us through? Can we really claim today's capability by relying on yesterday's achievements? I imagine we know the answer. Just because we've built a resume of well-earned efforts does not mean those efforts are safe from being undone if we start to surrender to them like comfort blankets. Because the path to comfort did not begin with comfort. It began with the steady and constant practice of showing up. Oftentimes, with discomfort. Our ability to be constant often reveals two opposing paths. One, where comfort and neglect can slowly weaken the foundation and create mistrust. The other, where consistent effort and follow-through can help strengthen it. Neither path is effortless. Both ask something of us. To accept a struggle we can live with. The difference is simply what we choose to keep practicing. In choosing to show up for ourselves, our mind notices. Every time we follow through on something we've said we'll do, our mind catches it. Maybe not consciously, but it does. It collects little pieces of evidence, tiny deposits from our actions as proof that we can be trusted. Individually, they don't seem like much, but over time, they grow into something steady, irrefutable, not delusional optimism or confidence rooted in positive thinking, but confidence rooted in lived proof. In building trust through our actions, we in turn have the capacity to show up for others. Even so, our capacity to do so also depends on our ability to be constant. Relationships and connections built over shared history and care can create a sense of security. We can feel steady, certain, established. Sometimes we may sit comfortably, believing that years of loyalty can somehow guarantee tomorrow. Because we've always been there, because we've always cared, because we've always shown up. And while those efforts absolutely matter, they cannot be guaranteed by the past. They are not an entitlement. History alone cannot sustain a relationship. It cannot uphold that identity indefinitely. Showing up does. Again and again. Even though one careless decision doesn't erase years of effort, one missed day doesn't end a habit, one difficult season doesn't define our character, all it can take is a series of missteps for all those years of stacked proof to come tumbling down. Our history doesn't exempt us from continuing to participate in becoming the person we hope to be. Like potholed roads and worn-out bridges, maintenance is needed. It isn't a sign that something has failed. It's the reason it continues to hold. Our identity lives in the choices we repeatedly make. Sometimes it lives in the grand moments, other times in the smallest of gestures. Each new day cannot be dependent on the past. All the past can offer is evidence, but not our right to any claim. That can only be claimed by how we show up today. So who are we willing to be today? Not yesterday. Not 5 years ago. Not the version of ourselves everyone remembers. But today. There is something strangely freeing about knowing we don't need to defend our past. We simply have to participate in the present. Our ability to show up is something we continue proving, not to the world first, but to ourselves. And that is the lived lesson that I've learned. It's not a universal prescription, but it is mine. Keep what stays, release what doesn't. Until next time.